three great panelists from three different parts of industry. Amy Loutfi, professor at Örebro and Linköping, and director of WASP. I have Karim, Nouira, who is CEO of Super Intelligence Computing Systems and creator of JRocket, a Java compiler, very cool. And Emma Stavrou, Director of Digital Services and AI Champion at Xylem. I'm very happy to have this very diverse panel here because we have industry, academia, and entrepreneurship and startups all in one place. And the question is, do we all feel the same way about AI and that kind of stuff? And as it turns out, when you allow for nuance, you sort of tend to agree more than when you just rapid fire like you do on LinkedIn. Who would have thought, right? We don't have a lot of time because we're a little bit behind schedule, so I'll just rapid fire some of these questions. Let's start off with these little game show signs here. I want to know, first of all, what everybody wonders. I don't think everybody wonders this, or maybe you do. You guys can also put up your hand if you agree yes. Capabilities of ML and AI are overestimated. Okay. Wow, we have an overrepresentation here on stage and an underrepresentation in the audience. So people in the audience don't feel it's overestimated. Two people feel it is overestimated. Why don't you tell me what you mean by yes? In what way is it overestimated?
Large language models, which is the state of the art in AI today, is simulating intelligence. Very good at facts, useless for reasoning. It can't be trusted. It cannot do many-step complex reasoning. And cannot be widely trusted in mission-critical applications like supply chain automation or robotics.
Oh gosh, it's a flame war. It's like Vim versus Emacs and other stuff. Okay, let's pause it for a moment. What do you think?
Yeah, I also think there's an overestimation. Of course, we have to define what we mean by overestimation, but there are still many scenarios, many applications where we cannot solve them with AI. You mentioned robotics or physical AI, but even the systems that we have today have their limits. And coming from academia, I see an enormous need for further research in the field. Okay, you were the black sheep here.
Yeah.
What do you feel?
No, I think I come from a little different background. Xylem, where I work, we produce pump stations for municipalities. It's a very conservative business and industry company manufacturing products. So for us, these large language models and Copilot and ChatGPT, it really has, I think, changed a lot how we work, and it helps us to be more efficient, to prepare meetings, summarize notes, summarize large documents, and this enables us to free up time to actually think about developing our products instead.
I think I guess there's two ways of thinking about AI. One is efficiency gains, and you can't go past zero. You can't become too efficient. Maybe you can become, and then there's also the so for example, making you more efficient at what you already do versus product development and providing value for a customer that didn't exist before because the technology now makes it possible. And you guys are doing product development a lot and have that on your roadmap. I think that is an okay segue. I want to pin this question because this is the infinity question about whether AI models and large language models are actually special. We'll get back to that at the end before we go through all these questions. Let's segue to product development because that's exactly what you brought up here. Product development with AI is different than traditional product development. Yes, yes, no. No. The audience says no, right? Maybe one. Okay, so we have two yeses and a no. Let's start back again here.
Yes, yeah. So my team, we develop digital services. We do a lot of software development. And we have started to use Copilot now.
And the programming Copilots, like GitHub Copilot.
GitHub Copilot in the process. And for us now, we need to get used to this because using this tool, it's like having a extremely junior, slightly kind of intellectually not so intelligent coworker that you need to check all the time. You cannot trust any line of code that comes out. currently. I'm not saying that this will not change in 5 or 10 years, but currently it's a big difference. And also, since we have many years of product development, we believe we know how to develop products. We're good at that. We know what it takes.
But it sounds like a big hassle with these. Is it a hassle, or is it actually making you more productive?
For us to bring AI in our processes, it's a matter of trust, right? We don't, the quality that we require on our products, we have not yet found if we bring AI in there, what will happen? What will it do, right? So we are, like, as you said, conservative. For us, this is a big change in our
still experimentation.
Process. Yes.
You also said yes to this question.
Yeah, I mean, if you look back 20 years and you see kind of the different waves of AI, we've had a big sort of deep learning wave in the middle of the 2010s. 2022, we've seen the large language model wave. And I anticipate the next wave is going to be very much about AIs developing AIs. And we're starting to see that, right? I mean, there's examples already out there. Lovable is one such example. So I think we have to be sort of open to this notion that products will be developed not by humans, but by other AIs. And that's fundamentally different.
That is one big difference. That's very insightful. I have to admit, I sort of planted a bit of my bias in the question, which is that AI development places a great onus on the business people. Before, business people might be able to give tech specs to a tech team and have it implemented. But now it just requires so much more on part of the business people in understanding exactly what is AI doing, what can it do, in order to place reasonable and good demands on the tech team to implement it. Maybe you have some, as the odd one out in this particular question, have some perspective on that.
Yeah, so first of all, we are a software development company. And we're using AI to develop AGI, so the next generation AI, which actually can think and reason, is intelligent, truly intelligent. But the development process for software is the same. Agile development, the AI component speeds up the cycle time. So it's just another junior developer in the loop, which makes you super efficient because one developer can write like 16,000 rows of codes in 1 week. But these codes need to be reviewed as if it was a junior developer. So not that big different, actually.
I have to admit, I only vibe code now. And I'm a fairly senior programmer, but I'm very used to having undergrads doing work for me, and so you have to be very specific with the instructions you give. But if you're specific enough, they'll do the work for you.
Yeah.
But you have to be micromanaging, like you mentioned. And we'll see when we can get to the point where you don't micromanage. But I'm curious, again, maybe if you can expand on your answer. It's one thing to use AI sort of in development and in programming and that stuff, but talk to me about the communication to clients, because there are competitors to you, and they don't use the same kind of AI approach as you do in controlling the robots. Do you feel that it's easy to communicate what the difference is in expectations, requirements, and feasibility, and all that kind of stuff?
Very easy. So, background: we are building an AI, a universal AI brain for robots that can control basically any type of robot, independent of size, shape, function, industrial robot, human robot. What you need? You need the robot to do its job. And the problem with AI is hallucinations, robustness. An industrial robot has like 400,000 hours mean time between failure. That means it can run for my lifetime if properly served. In terms of AI, if you have like 70–80% precision with an end-to-end AI, that's fantastic. That's useless in industry. That's good for circus, but not in industry. So this, having these metrics, robustness, like mean time between failure or precision or whatever, very easy to communicate and explain, and that's all you need. So that's all. The customer doesn't care about what's under the hood.
I'm going to segue into the next question with what you just said here. Let me add some context. We were just speaking a moment ago about sort of using terminology between us where we understand sort of what we're talking about, given that we have a technical background. But to me, LLMs and the kinds of AI that you're building are such vastly different categories that it's worthwhile using sort of different terminology for it. And when you use that kind of terminology with me, like AGI or mean time between failure, I totally understand it. The question is if communication becomes difficult and science communication outwards. So for example, some of the topics that we've been hearing about here today are safety, robustness, equality, fairness, and that kind of stuff. I'm going to ask the next question here, and I want the audience to raise your hand if you say yes. Is AI able to increase safety, equality, and fairness? That's interesting. So everybody on the panel, myself included, unequivocal yes. I know for a fact that doctors don't treat dark-skinned, light-skinned men, women, old, young, and everybody with fairness, with perfect fairness. It's just in the stats. And that's because we're just human. Only human. What are your thoughts on that? Why did you answer yes?
Well, I think in general, technology has this ability, if used correctly. Right?
An equalizer of sorts.
That's correct, and a democratizer of sorts, right? And I think one of the things, especially as a researcher, having been through sort of these waves of AI progression that I mentioned before, is that what's happened now is quite unique than what has happened before. First of all, we have large language models that have just been released to the wild, to everyone. And we're seeing very creative uses of that. There are risks, absolutely, but there are also benefits. And the other thing is that now the term AI is becoming an everyday term. We've always had AI around us. In fact, we've had a lot of different AI systems since the 80s, but now we're starting to use the term AI. And I think both of these phenomena are quite interesting. And I think particularly the first one that I mentioned really can offer a lot of opportunities for a lot of groups of people to what we call leapfrog development. They don't have to go through this incremental process, particularly what we've had in the Western world and the Western
Where is this resistance coming from? Because like you said, if it's a democratizing force that lifts the tide, gives everybody access to more information, more decision-making power, less bias, probably, where is the resistance coming from?
Well, I think there is a bit of sensationalization around AI. Basically, when you can report on AI failures, it becomes clickbait. So I really think the media in this case has a sort of an exercise to do to communicate the nuance of AI. And you notice different countries talk about AI differently. So there is a cultural aspect behind that kind of resistance that you're mentioning. And I think that's also a very interesting field of study. So there's that aspect. And then there is also the fact that we need to educate ourselves more about what AI is. We're using this very broad term to refer sometimes to broad things like superintelligence, sometimes to very specific things like large language models. And we need to kind of be better at getting everybody on board.
I think it would be interesting to hear from your perspective in a product development perspective. You know, there's a lot of pressure now for everybody to, we got to have AI on it. Sort of like in the early 2000s, you had like the e-toaster and the e-this and the e-that, right? So, you know, you told me that you guys are working to have various machine learning and AI components in your products that you're developing now. What is the driving force behind that?
Yeah, but one driving force is actually safety. So in a pump station, there are some dangerous work, right? There is a gas called hydrogen sulfide that can develop in a sump, and it's very poisonous. And if you go and serve the station, and you know, you can get really sick, or I don't know, even die. That's where AI could help. We're like thinking about, you know, having AI can recognize this gas and warn, or kind of even fix it. We also, if you have a pump station, you need to go and serve it and check that it's okay. You always need to go 2 people. In a car, it's remote. What if we can have our monitoring systems and AIs and machine learning models recognizing patterns and just say, this station is okay, you don't have to go there, but go to this station instead. We will save the environment and...
Is this something that was not possible before that AI enables, or how would you describe it?
What AI enables that the pump station itself, that's our vision, that the pump station itself knows, I feel like this. My status is this. I need to be served, and I need this. Please bring these parts and come and serve me.
Okay.
But so otherwise people need to go there and inspect and crawl down in places and maybe fall, I don't know, but here we believe AI can take away some of the dangerous human work.
If you could estimate in percent in the manufacturing space, what percent of predictive maintenance is a real thing and what is sort of a term that people sort of use as a hammer?
For us currently, we are a little behind. I would say the car industry is much further ahead of us. For us, we are just touching it, so we are just starting it up now.
Okay,
but
is that from observation that it is working, or
it's working? Yeah, definitely it's working. I mean, the models, they can really discover patterns and what humans cannot. However, I guess the problem is you need the models for machine learning. So you need to develop a model.
Yeah.
So let's say, has someone developed a model for pump stations?
Yeah.
No. So we need to develop the model, right? Then we need to collect the data and we need to create them. And do we have that bandwidth? And that's maybe a limitation today.
You guys are running this panel without me. I think that's a great segue to the last question that we were talking about before about sovereign AI, the skill set that you need to be able to develop things in your company. You can't just go out and buy a solution for the pump stations. It needs to be developed here. What kind of skills are necessary? I heard earlier that WASP employs over 100 PhD students here. But the truth is that it's a lot to ask from an AI developer. It's not enough to just know some calculus. You got to know infrastructure. You got to know computer science, which in my opinion is very different from mathematics. It's a branch of mathematics, but it's a specific one. And you're lucky. You have compiler developers and other stuff like that in your company. But what's your take on sort of the access to skills needed to implement this kind of stuff? Why aren't there more companies doing exactly what you're doing? What's your opinion?
I don't know. They should. The things with it's a compelling problem building a super intelligence or AGI. It's a philosophically interesting question. What's the difference between man and machine? Is it possible to build something truly intelligent? Secondly, it's an engineering challenge in itself. It's somebody say it's the last problem that humanity will solve.
Right, let me ask you, right, stop you right there. You said it's an engineering challenge.
Yeah.
Is it an engineering challenge or a science challenge, a research challenge? Which one is it? All of them, maybe.
Yeah, so my view on computer science is it's basically computer engineering. So it's an engineering art. You're building a rocket. If you're building a spaceship, you don't call it like spaceship science. So a lot of the skills you need to build next generation AI is standard software development skills. Is it possible to build a superintelligence? Well, if you can specify the features of the system, you can also build it. And you can break down the features to smaller and smaller parts and then just get to work. So
I think I want to segue to, because your domain is very adjacent to this in the sense that I think the revolution of ChatGPT was how do you interface with humans revolutions. It wasn't necessarily a tech revolution, right? It was a chat interface to a language model, and it's very natural for people to chat, right? To type and to speak in natural language. But a lot of your research has been around where do humans touch machines and overlap and that kind of stuff. Do you have sort of a take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are, as you were saying, there are many different parts that go into complex systems. And if we just talk a little bit about WASP, so it's AI Autonomous Systems Software, and there's also a little bit of cybersecurity there. 6.5 billion Swedish crowns, so the largest research program ever in Sweden. And the goal to examine 700 PhD students.
700.
700.
It's the hundreds, but
and
just a lot more.
And we have so far 200, over 200 that have been examined. So we have them out in society today. 75% of them choose to stay in Sweden, which is fantastic. 60% of them choose to go to industry. So if you're looking for this really top-notch competence, this expertise, that is sometimes computer science, but also mathematics and also control engineering and like sort of the whole sort of breadth of what you need for these technologies. There is a talent pool just waiting to come to you, but they want interesting problems to work on. And that's the challenge. Can you give them something that is really interesting for them to sink their teeth into? That's not just, okay, here's a run-of-the-mill software engineering project, but here we really want to do AI at scale. If you have that, I think you can find the competences.
Do you have a sense of those 60% that go to industry, how much are going to sort of larger enterprises versus startups?
So I don't have the numbers right off the top of my head, but what we see is that there are many that go to the large enterprises and many that go to the startups, and there is kind of a gap of the medium-sized enterprises. So they have a harder time, I think, attracting this.
So when you say startups, you mean like the real deep tech, couple of people working, hacking on a project?
Yeah, those really sort of cutting-edge new ideas, high risk, high gain.
Is that because of lack of investment that we don't have them? Do you have want to garner any guesses?
My guess is really on that medium-sized enterprise, it's really about sort of surviving, right? Okay. And surviving sort of quarter by quarter. Whereas in the large enterprises, you see larger research and development divisions, and in the startup scene, of course, you get those really sort of exciting problems to work on.
What about at Xylem, talent recruiting and all that kind of stuff? How does that work?
No, but I see what you mean, right? The Xylem is, as I said, conservative in this area, and I think many of our, management have a hard time to grasp what AI is. But the top management says you need to do AI, do AI, do AI. So we're like trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to do? And of course, you can't attract top talent by just, do something, right? I think we are struggling a little with like finding, what applications can we really use and what is it? And
what has worked in your experience? Like, what is your sense of what gets them excited? I feel a lot of
to really solve difficult problems, right? That gets people excited. I want to add something on, what's needed to make good models. You also need to know the field. You cannot only know computer science, mathematics. You also need to understand fluid mechanics if you do it for pump stations, and to find. That's not so many that have this combination, right? That's our problem. Because if you're a really good mathematician and stuff, you cannot really develop a model because you don't understand when the model has doing right or wrong, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I was asking before was these domain experts, it places a great onus on them to sort of collaborate because, for example, I don't know any of the things that in the companies that I work at. I mean, I try to learn, but, there are people that have been there for 30 years and how to absorb their knowledge and also the degree to which they don't understand how much they actually know that's sort of hidden and not written anywhere. We need to distill that information. I want to improvise one last question.
All right.
This one might be from left field. We haven't prepared this. The buzzword of the year in AI right now is agents, autonomous agents, collaborating, doing things like that. And I've found that it's very difficult to get agents to do stuff without knowing what they're supposed to do because of this dark knowledge stuff that's not written down anywhere. Do you think that autonomous agents are here now or are going to come in the very near future? One last one.
I can do this.
Near future, well.
Coming year.
I would...
Tell us why you hesitate.
Yes. Autonomous agents, there's always a human in the loop. So we don't actually have autonomous agents today to that extent that they are fully autonomous and do the work themselves.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
That has to be your... What's your take
on
it?
I think the question was incorrectly posed. That sounds very arrogant to say. But my answer is more that Swedish "nja," because I would say multi-agent systems and agents have actually been around for quite some time. So what we're seeing kind of the rebirth of a term.
It's a branding thing.
It's being co-opted. Yeah. My favorite multi-agent system that I use on a daily basis is GitHub Copilot. It's like 5 little people underneath doing random stuff.
The timeline. We will have autonomous agent with the general intelligence capabilities in 18 to 24 months.
All right. Tell me when you have the IPO so I can join.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
And what about your answer?
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is autonomous agent, but I just know in our what I get asked for in my companies, like, can I get an AI that only looks in this document and this document and this document, right? Because I don't want it to go out on internet and find stuff. I want this and this, because then it will help me save time, because I can send them to this AI, and AI answers the question, and I don't have to answer the questions. But really, they want to control exactly where the AI looks. That kind of agenting, maybe that's not autonomous.
So people are asking for it. So
yes,
I think that's
a big need for us.
Cool. Yeah. Excellent. Well, we are out of time. If you guys want to talk about consciousness and the future of AGI and everything, look up these esteemed panelists. Thank you for listening, and give them a round of applause.